I want my number ones back, all of them.
That's crazy. Why would I give them back? Give you number 2 picks.
No. No, I want my picks back, all of them.
Right, you have a deal. Give me your picks. We have a deal.
I'm sorry, that deal's now off the table.
What?
We live in a different world than we did just 30 seconds ago. It doesn't matter. I want all my picks back, and I want David goddamn Putney just because I feel like it.
You're out of your mind.
Yeah, I am. Haven't I proved that already?
Okay, so the rumor is true. Okay, we just traded you. Okay, we traded you to the Indianapolis Colts. All right, so you okay?
Nah, I want to call my grandmother.
You can call your grandmother? Okay, this hasn't hit the papers or anything like that. Okay, well, why don't we do a little business first, okay? Before you call grandma, okay?
Welcome back into the Dynasty Trade Show. Thank you so much for joining us. First and foremost, y'all are incredible. You have pushed us over the 1,000 subscriber mark. Thank you so much. We are recording this on Tuesday, so hopefully tonight during the AMA, the rest of the gear that came for the giveaway, I'll be able to show that off a little bit. And then be on the lookout for the announcement video on how to enter the giveaway. And then, of course, you sit on pins and needles just waiting to see who the winners were, because there's some dope-ass shit in that giveaway. But, Adam, how you doing, buddy? Man, you got the COVID all kicked. You back? You ready to roll?
I'm ready, man. I'm ready to do the Dynasty Trade Show. It feels like wasn't that long ago we did it. We did it a little later in the week due to COVID, but I'm ready to do another one, man. We got some really good trades here today.
We do, man. The deals have actually been popping here in the offseason early. Everybody just sitting around watching playoff football and making bets. Making bets on their dynasty teams. So let's pull it up, man. I know I kicked one off here.
Let's kick it off with, the McNutted special. It's going to be an interesting trade show here today, Mike, but let's start it off with you, as always.
There it is, man. I've been firm on the fence. I don't think Brock Purdy is a very good quarterback. And me and Muzzio went back and forth. We went back and forth on Twitter a little bit. Almost had a real money bet, but what better way to supplement a real money bet than just do it in a dynasty league, right? So this is a 12-team best ball league, Superflex, of course, and he's firm enough in his belief on Brock Purdy to send me the 203, and I'm firm enough on my belief to get Brock Purdy the fuck off my team for the 203. So we'll figure out who's right in the long run, but I thought it was a pretty great deal. Like, I couldn't hit the button fast enough when I saw that there was a possibility for him actually taking Brock Purdy off my hands.
Yeah, I mean, this one's interesting. Like, I guess it's a big thing on what you believe and what's going to obviously happen. Like, just thinking about probably where you got him, right? Cost of acquisition.
For free.
And then,
For free.
And then re-rolling him into, not just a second. Like, in this class, I'm already on record saying I want a lot of these seconds. Like, I want all of them. And you get to re-roll free into the 203, the 15th pick off the board. I totally see the appeal of that. Like, let me just say that, because a top 15 pick in this class, Mike, now you're not going to get a quarterback very likely there unless, somehow maybe you take a shot on Hooker or something. But the reality is that pick, man, is going to be a running back or wide receiver that's heavily coveted. Hell, maybe even Michael Mayer's there somehow, So, I love that pick. The interesting bet with Brock Purdy is, man, like, if he is the starter in San Francisco for a while, and these are ifs though, right? The big, if he's the starter, if he's the quarterback of their future, you could be looking at, this is kind of probably what like happened with Dak Prescott, things like that. So I think it's a rich bet to do it at the 203. I'll say that personally, but if it pays out, I would imagine it's going to definitely be higher than the 203. The reality of this risk bet, though, Mike, is if Brock Purdy starts to become Mr. Irrelevant next year, that 203 is going to destroy what Brock Purdy's value is.
100%. This is where you weigh what you spent, what the acquisition cost was for him, and you're just comfortable cashing out at profit, right? Would it be pertinent to hold Brock Purdy? Possibly, Adam. Like, there's a scenario. I mean, I'm not going to completely shit on the kid, but
no, definitely.
There's a very realistic scenario where he's announced and actually is the 49ers quarterback through all of 23 and maybe beyond.
Oh, absolutely. Like 23 is already starting to feel like it's a very real possibility.
Is the 203 cheap for acquiring San Francisco starting quarterback who's young? Yes, 100%.
Right.
But what happens on the flip side if he's not, right? Like the risk outweighs it so much. So at this point, right now, when you're looking at it, like I'll just go ahead and I'll take the profit because I spent literally $0 fab dollars on him in December to put him on my roster. It's found money, and now somebody wants to give me something actually tangible for it. You take all the risk off my hand. Will I feel like shit if, next year he's putting up really good numbers? I'm like, man, I sold low. Part of me will, but the other part of me will be like, I'm happy with whatever fucking rookie I took at 203 too. Like I still have that opportunity for them to far outproduce the draft slot that I take them in, or whatever I do with this pick down the road as far as drafting a player or maybe including in a deal to move up in another spot and maybe get into a, CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, right? If I package this and some other stuff together. So when you look at the totality of it, it was just a move like, this is found money, this is free money, I'll cash out right now. And it's not like I'm going, well, it's for a third or something like that. Nah, I'm good. Man, you send me an early 23 pick, my ears really perk up.
No, I get that. And I think, let me say the last piece I think on this would be, if you're someone that plays in 1 or 2 or 3 leagues, I totally understand if you say, I want to hold on Brock Purdy. I believe that Brock Purdy is going to be this starter. Even if you're not, that's fine if you say that. But, like, I'm playing in 20 leagues. Mike's playing in how many now? 30-something?
Yeah. Yep.
So, Mike, I just looked. I have 4 Brock Purdy shares currently, right? And so for me, on some of these, I would like to cash out at 203, right? I probably do want to hold a couple shares, though, too, in case it goes. Like, I think that's where portfolio management versus having just one league. Like, if you just have one league and you picked up Brock Purdy for free and you're convicted, I want to see this thing through because I think he's going to be the starter, go do it. Like, I get it. But from a portfolio perspective, I think it even makes more sense, Mike, to kind of cash out at different points when Brock Purdy's a very big unknown.
That's the smart, ethical way of putting it, Adam. I will say this. I'm on the fence, though, if it doesn't matter how many shares I had, Adam. 50, 5, 1. Doesn't matter. You send me a 203 in this class in a Superflex league for Brock Purdy, he's yours. I'll help him pack his shit, get the fuck off my team.
I get that. I will say the one thing is, especially too, after this year, Mike, as you and I hit a bunch of things correctly, but I also missed a bunch. And I will say,
very true.
The one thing about me that I've learned is I need to start assessing more, okay, what if I'm wrong? And if I'm wrong on Brock Purdy, I don't want to sell all of it. So that's kind of where I'm at on that one. But that was a very good deal. I honestly think there is risk and reward for both of you. So let's keep the same thought processes in mind here because this is another best ball league, Mike. So this is the Royal Rumble League, the big Royal Rumble League. Mike, you and I saw this deal go through and kind of, had similar thoughts, but apparently there was some differing viewpoints on this trade. So felt like it was a good thing to bring it on the trade show and let everybody else decide while we talk through it. So if you know about the Royal Rumble League, it's a 14-team Superflex league, but it's 2-copy. So there's 28 teams. And the big thing I want to stress about that, Mike, is because it's 2-copy, it's essentially 2 14-team leagues in one league, and you can trade across leagues, right? So I think the big reason I want to say that is because the quarterback scarcity basically stretched even further because there's 2 14-team leagues in the thing. So that's the dynamics of it. It's best ball. What are we starting, 10 or 11?
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
10 or 11. It's a shorter lineup, and there's 25 total roster spots. So, which is also a shorter total roster spot. So anyway, Mike, this is a 7-for-1. Now, when we talk about tearing down, even for a guy like Mahomes, who's a special player, normally you don't see 7-for-1s, and when you see a 7-for-1, you see guys that aren't necessarily all this type of value over here. So the trade is Patrick Mahomes, who's incredibly valuable. I would say going to be the 101 in a lot of drafts, if not definitely the 102. He's being acquired by Brett B81 for Sammy Snakes. He's getting off of Mahomes for Jimmy G and Geno Smith. So he's getting those 2 quarterbacks quite a ways down on the quarterback landscape, but getting 2 back. Also, he's getting Tyreek Hill, a phenomenal receiver, Saquon Barkley, one of the best running backs in football. He's getting as well Deebo Samuel, and maybe a little discounted now after the big, huge year, 2 years ago. But this year, he still was pretty good. A little down from where he was 2 years ago. Dalvin Cook, who quietly had 1,400 scrimmage yards, and Hollywood Brown, who we don't really like all that much, but you're talking about maybe that's the worst player in the deal. So, Mike, I'm going to let you kind of start off with what your thoughts are on this deal. But, man, there's a lot of pieces coming back on that other side.
Well, Mahomes is the best player in Superflex Dynasty, period.
Right.
Like, the best asset to have. Josh Allen comes close, but I still think it's Patrick Mahomes, and pretty easily. He's incredible. Brett's a Kansas City Chiefs fan. He gets his guy. I get wanting to pay a lot for Patrick Mahomes, and I would say, Adam, if this was a lineup league, I would like the Patrick Mahomes side a little bit more. But being that it is a best ball league and being proven right on tearing down into some crusties, as long as there's a lot of things that, these guys could all make a lineup. I mean, as good as Patrick Mahomes is, man, I just want the shot on 7 for 1, Adam. And it isn't like these 7 are just random guys who are turds. Yes, Dalvin Cook had a down year and is on the downslope. Probably not worth a first in just about any league you play.
Not anymore,
Jimmy G may not have a job next year. Geno Smith, we've seen turn into a pumpkin. Like, we've seen it before. It's a 9th-year breakout. I don't have that much faith in it. But you give me 2 of them, like, I like my odds of getting by. Debo, yes, you were right. Down year. Is he still worth a first in most leagues? I would say yes. Tyreek Hill, is he worth 2 firsts in most leagues? I would say yes.
He's definitely worth more than a first by far.
Saquon's worth at least a first, even though he's on the older side of running backs, and we all hate running backs now. But I mean, you're talking one of the elite running backs. Like, I would pay a first for Saquon Barkley. I don't think there's a lot of people who would argue that. So just if I look at those pieces, I'm going, well, Saquon's a first, and Tyreek's probably 2 first, and Debo's at least a first. That's 4 firsts for Patrick Mahomes, which in most leagues is kind of like, man, you come to me with 4 firsts for any one of my guys, I am definitely paying attention. I am definitely listening. And then you add on everything else. Like, some people argue whether or not Hollywood's worth a first. Like, he's definitely worth more than a mid-second. Like, there's in a best ball league, especially where you don't have to start him. Like, I'm willing to get a lot of Hollywood Brown even if you want to put the price tag at a mid-second. Dalvin Cook, like I said, I don't know what he's worth, but I would imagine mid-second would make sense for him. Jimmy, maybe a late second, early third if you wanted to be highly critical. And Geno Smith, maybe worth a first, maybe not, doesn't really matter. You put a second-round value on him. I mean, you're looking at 4 firsts and multiple seconds now coming back in just terms of value. When I separate the names or my feelings about Patrick Mahomes and I just look at the details of it, and then I look at the fact that it's a best ball league, as much as I want to get behind, like, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is worth it, I can't, man. I can't. Like, I'd 100 times out of 100, if I was Sammy Snakes, I'd be taking this deal too. Like, this is what y'all dream of when you have Allen or Mahomes. Yes, they're fantastic on your team. I'm just hoping somebody pays me a king's ransom for them. And it doesn't even have to be all guys that I like, right? Like, there's dudes in this deal, Adam, you and I both are like, meh. But for this, they just kind of feel like throw-ins. And if they're just throw-ins, then yeah, I'm in. Yeah, I'll take them as a throw-in. I'll take your garbage. So I thought Sammy Snakes killed this one. It was pretty crazy. Like I said, maybe if it was a lineup league, I'd tweak it a little bit. It's still an impressive haul for Patrick Mahomes in any format. Best ball, man, it just makes it so easy for me to want the 7 guys for the 1 dude.
Yeah, Mike, I have a lot of different thoughts about this, but let me just say this too. Patrick Mahomes is worth – Ray calls him a BAM tier player, right, by any means necessary. And I think typically that's appropriate. Like, a lot of times, even in best ball leagues, Mike, I'll overpay for Mahomes to lock him up because, like, I think I'm a decent enough manager that I can make up for some of the loss in other spots. Correct. Whereas Mahomes is so different, right? And Mahomes, spike weeks and consistency weeks, Mike. It's insane when you look at last year. 13 spikes, 17 above average. Like, that's outrageous. So he's never missing your lineup, and he's got 13 spike weeks, right? So that's enormous. He's incredibly valuable. But that being said, Mike, like last year, Geno Smith was the number 5 quarterback in spike weeks and the consistency weeks. Now, maybe you don't think that projects to be the case moving forward. I get it. And I think what's scary about this trade, Mike, for a lot of people that maybe even still are looking at this and kind of thinking about Mahomes is you're not getting a secure quarterback back, right? Like when you talk a tier down, Patrick Mahomes, if you're going from Patrick Mahomes, let's say, to even Tua, who has a lot of risk, but you're still feeling like you're getting a true secured quarterback back, right? So I think then the cost of all the other pieces would come down because you're getting a top 12 quarterback, right? Even if it was Kyler Murray or somebody down there in that range. But I think what makes it scary is you're getting two quarterbacks that, like I think Jimmy G will start next year, but he's not certain to. Like I think it's going to happen, but he has to go to a new team. He has to win the job. Geno has to keep the job in Seattle. They have a high pick. So there's a lot of uncertainty at quarterback, and as great as all the other stuff is, that's where I think people are fearful. But you have to understand, even with all that being said, Mike, there's two big parts of this for me that make it the Sammy Snake side. One, like when you look at the Hall of Players, all right, so let's even say there's a lot of scariness coming back your way at quarterback. Look at the rest of the players, though. Saquon Barkley's a top 5 running back. Even if you're someone that hates running back, this is a perfect hero RB guy. And he's a guy that, even though he's getting older, if you're going to bet on a running back to age well, Saquon's the one you want to bet on.
Right.
You know, Dalvin Cook is being heavily discounted in this deal. And I get it. He's in the second range, you know, a second plus or whatever. But, Mike, he still probably is going to be decent next year, especially in best ball. And, you know, when I look at best ball, Mike, he's number 10 in the scoring system, right? Like another top 10 running back getting older. Maybe he's not top 10, but let's say he's at least middling, you know, RB2 next year. That matters.
I think it's safe to say like you could project him top 20 and not be over your skis. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's just being modest.
Mike, now here's where let's go to receiver now. Okay. Tyreek Hill in our scoring metric, which is consistency weeks and spike weeks. So consistency weeks gives you 1 point. That means they're scoring above average, right? They're at least getting in your lineup.
Yeah.
Where you have a spike week, which is going to help win you a week. That's 1.33 points. Mike, he's number 2. Tyreek Hill is showing no signs of aging. He's incredibly fast. Mm-hmm. And outside of Justin Jefferson, nobody hit harder for your team than Tyreek Hill at the wide receiver position.
Yep.
You're talking about Hollywood Brown, who, as much as you and I dunk on Hollywood Brown, is a legit player.
Yes.
And you're getting Deebo Samuel. So here's the thing, right? When I total all that up, in best ball, Mike, that is a lot of pieces. And none of those pieces are dog shit, really, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, we just did a startup where at 712 was Geno Smith and 901 was Jimmy G.
Wow.
Mike, I mean, these are decent assets, even a quarterback. And then the final point I'll make, which is point 2, even if you think Mahomes is worth all this, if it's in lineup and you think you can form your team correctly, fine. But, Mike, honestly, in both formats, I have to ask you the question, and everybody listening, even if you think Mahomes is worth all this, how do you assemble a team now? You burn all that value. How do you assemble the team to be built around Mahomes?
Yep.
You give up all this value? Like, unless you are just so stocked, the cupboard is so damn stocked, like Correct. You can't assemble around him. So the trade, in my opinion, here becomes moot because even though you think you got the best asset, which is very true, and he's long-term, secure, and scoring a bunch of points per game, how do you assemble a team around him? That's my biggest thing.
You're going to have to get pretty damn crusty and hit a lot of stuff like, you know, hit all those late-round draft picks or hit all those waiver acquisitions in the offseason, right? Just nail after nail after nail because, I mean, you just gave up 7 people who could potentially make your lineup on any given week for one guy, right? So now you still have 6 more spots that you have to fill weekly. That's a lot of capital. I mean, especially when you consider like when we're drafting like 3rd round guys, man. I mean, how many 3rd rounders have you taken that have done fuck all? Like never even come close to sniffing your lineup, even in a best ball, right?
For sure,
you know,
dude.
all those 3rd rounders we burned on Hunter Long. How many
Brown, right?
How many consistent weeks have they given us? Like none.
Hunter Long hasn't even sniffed a consistent week.
So I mean, it gets scarier and scarier the farther down you go. So in a best ball league, Adam, I think this is a slam dunk for Sammy Snakes. Like I said, I want to defend the Mahomes side because he's so fucking good.
Well, let me help you. Let me help you do that real quick by saying, Mike, where is the cutoff on this trade? So we have Mahomes, let's say, just theoretically. Let's throw this out. Where here is the cutoff where it's like, okay, you got me, I'll send you Mahomes. Like if I take away, let's start by taking away Hollywood Brown. Are you still in?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's take away Dalvin Cook. Are you still in? So now it's Jimmy G, Geno, Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel, Saquon Barkley.
Maybe.
Okay, I think that's exactly right, Mike. I think that there is a 5. If this is a 5-for-1 where I'm not getting a secure quarterback back, that's where I start thinking, I don't know.
And you know me too. I never did one of these trade downs or these down tiers with a stud quarterback, but I've done it with other positions, right? The Jonathan Taylors, the Kyle Pitts, right? And just got absolutely nuked and dunked on for it. Now, not saying I'm 100% right all the time, but even if those guys had good years or years that we expected, I still win those trades just because of the sheer volume of stuff that you got back and the potential to make your lineup. I will say this, Barkley, Tyreek, Deebo, that's enough to have a conversation in best ball for me. Now,
no quarterbacks coming back at all?
No quarterbacks coming back. Now,
even in this format, which is heavy quarterback, 14-team double copy?
This would all depend on what I had at quarterback already or what I could go acquire at quarterback and I thought I could get by with. Like if I could go to super crusty land where I had some draft picks. I know we don't like to rely on rookies, but, if I got like the 102 pick or maybe the 103 pick, I'm going, if I draft 2 rookies, maybe one of these guys on a weekly basis will enter my lineup and be above average. I think that's where you start to have the conversation. You start adding in all the other pieces, right? Like Hollywood's gone, Dalvin Cook, but you had those two quarterbacks back, even guys that I don't really all that much like. I'm like, shit, man. All right, you got me. Can I get a little bit more? Well, how about I give you Dalvin Cook? Say less. I think we're there. And then you on top of it, you're like, I'll give you Hollywood Brown too. It's like you could have stopped, man. You had him like 2 players ago.
Right.
You had him 2 players ago.
Yeah, I think that would probably be the cutoff for me. Like if those 2 were out of it, I would do it. I think the big thing is, like you said too, who do I have at quarterback? I know that Sammy Snakes already has T-Law. So if I'm going into next year with T-Law, Geno, and Jimmy G in this type of a format, Mike, I don't feel that bad given what all I'm getting back at skill players. I know that getting quarterbacks later is going to be tough, but I'm willing to risk it for this type of haul. So,
Brett, if he had like a Goff or something, like I like Goff, but I don't want to rely on Jared Goff as my QB1. You know what I mean?
Right.
It becomes a lot harder when you have a top 12, a top 8 option in Trevor Lawrence already. Like, yeah, I'm okay. I can get one of these dudes.
I agree with that fully too. All right, Mike. So it's funny we started off with the trade you had because, Mike, we have another trade from the Royal Rumble. So everyone keep the same mindset here on the trade. But, Mike, this is similar. We have Brock Purdy going to Ray for Zach Wilson and a 23 second. Mike, this is also an early second. So what are your thoughts here? I mean, this is Brock Purdy. Now, in 14-team 2 copy, Mike, this will be, a few picks later because it is 14-team versus 12. But anyway, your boy Zach Wilson, who I know you're still willing to buy on, a early second and 14 teams, and Brock Purdy. What are you thinking?
I don't know if it's hot takey or whatever, but Brock Purdy or Zach Wilson, I'd rather have Zach Wilson on my team.
I was going to ask you. I can't believe you really just said that. All right.
I did.
Wow. Really? You actually believe that still today?
Yeah. Still believe
Is that now? Let me say it this way. You believe that in a conviction that Zach Wilson will become a better quarterback than Brock Purdy?
Yes.
Okay.
100%. Because
there's no way on the trade surface that you can get anywhere near for Zach Wilson what you can with Brock Purdy and flipping.
No.
Okay.
People are in love.
Okay.
People are in love with Brock Purdy. They hate Zach Wilson.
I wanted to make that big discrepancy because
understand market.
Yeah, the market's so different.
Let's just say this though. I mean, push came to shove. Yes. Would I ask for 23 seconds on top? Yeah. Would I get it? I don't know, maybe. And maybe we do this back and forth where it's like, well, what about a third? Or what about this? I'm cool with whatever I get on top of Zach Wilson for Brock Purdy. If absolute push came to shove, though, in my leagues where I have Brock Purdy and I had to do it straight up, I just do it straight up. Like, I have that much conviction, portfolio aside. I think Zach Wilson's a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. And I don't think it's relatively close. I think people dunked on Zach Wilson too hard. The NFL has shown year after year that these backup, undrafted, late-round quarterbacks, like, they will burn through them. these guys who are top tier picks, they will give them chance after chance after chance. If I already believe he has more talent and I know he's getting an opportunity somewhere where the uncertainty or the doubts that I have about Brock Purdy are still there in the back of my mind, that's why I say I'm comfortable doing it, right? There's a scenario where, yes, maybe they say Brock's our guy and we're going into 2023 with him, okay? Maybe they do it. If they don't trade Trey Lance and they open it up to any type of competition, like I think Trey Lance is a much more talented and better quarterback. Like who's to say that during training camp next year they're like, yeah, I know we said Brock was the guy, but damn, Trey Lance looks so good. He runs this offense to an efficient level, and Brock's back on the bench, and it's Trey Lance's team. Zach Wilson, unless they bring in somebody else or even if they trade him to another team, like another team's taking him on. We've seen it with Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield and countless of these top-tier quarterbacks, top-tier taken quarterbacks. I shouldn't say like top-tier like they perform that way, but guys who have been taken in the NFL draft very hard get chance after chance after chance. I mean, even when you thought after last year Sam Darnold's never getting a chance again and they just traded for another guy in Baker Mayfield who was the 101, it was almost like Carolina was just waiting for Sam Darnold to come back off an injury to give him the football and let him finish out the season. So chance after chance after chance, and then, you think it's over for Baker after his second team and they just flat out get rid of him. He goes to Los Angeles. And all of a sudden it's like, is he the starting quarterback for the Rams next year? Like, who knows? Did he resurrect it? Did he make some money? So I have that much faith in Zach Wilson. I don't know where exactly the pick is. I don't know what the pick number is, but anything on top of Zach Wilson for me is good.
It's like 202 or something. It's
holy
early.
shit. I just set Brock Purdy away for the 203, even in a 14-team
so
league.
This would take it
like
to what, 204 or 5? Yeah.
204,
Let's call it 205.
Whatever. Call it the 205. I'd do that straight up just for the pick. I'd do it straight up just for Zach Wilson. So I'm with my guy Scott on this one. Like, I like the deal for him, and he gets his leverage. He gets his 2-for-1 that he always likes to talk about.
I definitely I think this one here, there's two things about it. I think from a process move, cashing out for an early second, and then also getting your long shot in Zach Wilson. At this point, it feels like that for him. I'm not saying he's a bad talent or anything. But like I think the process is probably correct there. Like truly, I do. But let me say this: the one thing that makes me actually kind of want the other side more is the dynamics of this league, Mike. And you play in this. Mm-hmm. And if anyone listening, you're in 14-team leagues, you know how crazy the quarterback stuff is. And when I think about that, and I've seen, because it's too copy, how insane the quarterbacks are here at this spot, Mike. I will say this: if Brock Purdy ends up failing, like this is one of those trades, obviously you'll lose big time, right? Even if Zach Wilson doesn't cash into anything, just the early second or a quarterback that ends up failing is not close, right? So there's that. But I will say, Mike, in a scenario like this, like if I look at things that could happen, I understand that's a risky bet when you start saying what could happen. But like if Brock Purdy's the starter for the Niners next year and it looks like they're going to move on from Lance, like Brock Purdy's value is going to be insane, because here's the thing about the conversation that I think needs to be added to it is this. Zach Wilson had a very poor start to his NFL career, and I won't say that the situation was anywhere near Frisco offensively, especially in his first year. It wasn't, right? Where does Zach Wilson land even if he is the starter next year? Like if he's in a really bad situation again, I don't know if he's good enough to overcome that as much as I like the talent. What I do know about Brock Purdy is if he's the starter on this team next year, at least next year, that situation is ridiculous. Look at the winning percentage they have. Look at the weapons, right? Like that's where in this format, I might be willing to risk it. I will say though, like this is risky because Mike, even in this 14-team league, like this 205 pick is going to be a running back that is coveted. And if Zach Wilson is a starter somewhere, that already is going to feel pretty decent. I guess this is a conviction thing probably for you, and also league dynamics. Like how strong are you with Brock Purdy? Are you willing to make the bet? And then with the league dynamics, if Brock Purdy continues to ascend next year, Mike, holy shit, I don't know what he could fetch you. Because you just saw, I mean, now obviously that's a ridiculous thing with Mahomes last time. Purdy's never going to that territory. Let's just make that clear. But I bet you could get something crazy if he ends up being a top 15 option, you know?
I think Ray and I both disagree on Brock Purdy. Like he sees more of the big picture. from the people he listens to, the people that he talks to about Brock Purdy, and he's more willing to adapt to the new news coming out. I'm much more rigid, and we talked about this the other day. I said he was saying that he can kind of understand exactly where I'm coming from on the Purdy thing because I watched this guy throughout his entire college career. Right, he came from Iowa State, our rival. A team I fucking despise, and I've always thought he's bad, and I always thought he was overrated. And then he gets drafted in the 7th round, and I still can't accept the fact that people are singing his praises. I don't think he's a very good quarterback. And Ray made the analogy it'd be like him, no matter what happens with like Max Duggan coming in, after him watching Max Duggan and not thinking he's very good. You just can't bring yourself to accept it. So if I take a step back and I look at it, I can see the conviction on Ray, like exactly what you're saying, where if this pays off in a big way for him. But I really like the Scott sides if we're just looking at the process, right? Mm-hmm. This is the way my first trade should have looked, right? I was so excited for the 203, but Scott's doing a 2-for-1, right?
He's getting a long shot back at quarterback too. I like that, yeah.
Right, either he wins if he hits on Zach Wilson and is anywhere near to what Brock Purdy becomes.
Right.
Or he wins, he's got a two-way out. He wins if that early second becomes anything close to, like he has multiple ways of at least equaling the trade, if not outright just dominating and winning it. So by process play, man, I'm almost jealous. Like Scott really pulled off here.
I agree with you on the process play too. But let me say this: I think the league dynamics is what requires this, right? Because Mike, if this is a 12-team Superflex league, I'm smashing this Zach Wilson and 202. There's no question. Yeah. Like if it's that league that I saw you trade for Purdy in, I would have smashed it if you give me Zach Wilson in an early second. Mike, I think the dynamics of this 14-team 2-copy league is where it makes me a little more hesitant. Not saying that the process play still couldn't weigh out and pay off. It's like, man, all offseason, if Purdy's the starter, what can I do? Even if I don't believe, I still have this mystery box quarterback that someone might actually pay up for. Where with Zach Wilson, like I know I'm sitting on that asset all the way until he proves something. Like that asset is a locked-in dead asset,
That's fair. That's fair.
So next deal, Mike, this is one of your favorites, right? This is your boy,
my guy,
Juwan Johnson. We're staying in the 14-team lane, though, Mike. 14-team, not necessarily as much our lane, but we play in it, so we know. 14-team Superflex PPR, Mike. Juwan Johnson for a 24 third. Mike, I mean, let me say this, too. Especially when you get into 14-team, you're adding 2 picks, right, to each round. Yeah. So generic third that you think is yours, which it is yours, that you probably think is late, Mike, right? For Juwan Johnson, I'm sending away almost a 4th-round pick for him. We saw what you did last week. This is a smash for the Who's, I think.
That's sending away any third for Juwan Johnson. 12-team, 14-team, 10-team, 16-team. I don't give a shit.
But, Mike, even here's the thing, though. In 14-team, even if this is 301, this is add 4 spots. This is the 305 at worst-case scenario.
Right. I'll send it. I love it. I love it, man. It looks like it inspired somebody to go get some Juwan Johnson. I know I kind of heard a little, man, Zach, we give Zach so much crap, right? He was like, that's why I kept asking about him all year on the trade show or on the start-sit show. Like I just you don't know when to start him though. And looking at the numbers at him compared to a lot of other tight ends outside of, Andrews, Schultz, Hawkinson, Njoku, Kelsey, Kittle, the answer when to start Juwan Johnson is every week. Just put him in there because everybody else is less consistent than the guy. Like they were more variance in their performance than there was Juwan Johnson. And this is with Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston or God forbid Taysom Hill taking some snaps at quarterback and playing quarterback. So just roll out Juwan Johnson. I mean, he was more consistent than Evan Ingram, Cole Kmet, Pat Freiermuth, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, Taysom Hill, the aforementioned bad quarterback, but decent enough when he has tight end eligibility play. Juwan Johnson for a third in a 14-team league, especially Adam. Not only the pick thing, but 14-team. Like, I mean, you're talking 14 tight ends, starting tight ends. Is there 14 tight ends better than Juwan Johnson? Not in my opinion. So it's pretty easy for me.
Yeah, I think, Mike, it's interesting that point you just made too, right? Like, if you have one of the top tier guys, like if you got Kelsey, you got Kittle, you got Andrews,
right?
You got Hawkinson, you got Njoku, I think even, you You got Schultz even maybe I'd probably put in that mix.
Yep.
You might even put Pat Freiermuth in that mix, and that's fine.
Just
like you start him weekly.
The set it and forget it. You don't worry about him once.
And Goddard in there too, right? But I think the point is with those, set it, forget it, unless you have just a plethora of them.
Or they're injured that week or something like that.
Sure,
right? They're banged up. Yeah.
But the point is, I think Juwan Johnson. So like when you get outside of that range, though, real quick, when you talk like what you're doing with your team, I think in a lot of people's minds, then if you're not in that group, you just go to streaming, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing that's interesting about Juwan Johnson, at least from last year's numbers, and if that continues, which we expect to, because I mean he had Andy Dalton for God's sakes. Like why wouldn't at least that continue, let alone possibly get better? Mike, the interesting part about him is, like, I think a lot of times when you stream, the frustrating part for the streaming managers for tight ends is you're trying to pick which week, and you end up totally missing all the time, right? Like you constantly put Juwan Johnson in when he's tight end 49 and 36, and then you put Evan Ingram because he came off of a tight end 4 week. You put him in the following week, and now he's 37, and I almost think like a guy like Juwan Johnson, I think Ingram probably could be in that mix now too. Like it's a little north of streaming to where like you just have to kind of take the variance and be willing to accept the down weeks with the pop weeks. And that's how you guarantee you're going to get those pop weeks in lineup. Now, if you're playing like us, Mike, in best ball, you don't give a shit. That's what's fun about best ball, especially for tight ends, is when Juwan Johnson pops, he pops. And if he doesn't, who cares? And you probably have some other options. But Mike, regardless of all that, I just wanted to get that point out there because I think that's a good point for the tight end position. The thing is, Mike, when I look at this trade, Mike, like, I mean, 2024 class is really dope. I want to say that. Mm-hmm. But there's no way. Like, I honestly don't think I would accept this, even in lineup league. There's just no way.
None. No, I'm good.
A year out? Like, if you told me this is 301 and 23, and you might get me to think about it because maybe I'll get one of these guys that falls that's a value now. Maybe I can trade out of it for more or something. 2024 random third, which I'm assuming the way that this trade's going down, Mike, this is Blitz who thinks he's going to be competitive. No fucking chance, dude. And I'm not Mike with Juwan Johnson, all right? I did have a lot of shares. A lot of that was because I just picked them up off waivers relentlessly a couple years ago. But, Mike, there's just no way I would take a random third a year out for Juwan Johnson at this point, given how, like, shallow the tight end landscape is, man.
I mean, take Juwan Johnson. Think about it. Last year, it was kind of like a nice story. We thought he was going to be something. He didn't ever really – I mean, he had some moments, right? This year, it was like, well, maybe he'll do something, but, I still kind of holding on to the Adam Troutman thing. And then it became readily apparent it wasn't the Adam Troutman show. It was the Juwan Johnson show, and he's still learning how to play the tight end position. Adam, if you take what he did, fantasy producing, the spike weeks, some of the analytics and the metrics that he did, and you change Juwan Johnson's name to Noah Fant, how crazy are you and I going right now? Like, we told you, this is the guy. Outside of like these handful of tight ends, this is the guy you want.
Right.
He's extremely athletic. Look at
right.
him. He's a mismatch. They're
right.
using him. We're having a field day if Noah Fant is doing some of the things that Juwan Johnson's doing. He's not. Noah Fant is disappointing us, but that's the thing. I think if we just kind of get over the name a little bit, just look at what the guy's doing and doing it with limited experience, limited opportunities, because they still didn't give him the full tight end workload there for a while. I mean, we thought with Adam Troutman's usage earlier in the season, you're like, all right, there's still a chance for Adam Troutman, and then that went away pretty quick. So it kind of became readily apparent this is Juwan Johnson's team. If you just separate yourself from the name and look at what he produced, the age, the athletic ability, the talent, some of the metrics, what he actually put on wax, and regardless of whether it's Andy Dalton or who his quarterback was, he's good. And you're telling me a 14-team third-round pick 2 years out is all it costs for me? Lineup, best ball, doesn't matter. If I'm a contender, if I'm a rebuilder, I don't really care. Like, I take Juwan Johnson everywhere here. And if you're on board and you're not even the biggest Juwan Johnson fan like me, that's saying something.
But, Mike, this is easy, though, because, all right, let me just give you a perspective real quick, and we need to get off of this because I'm not doing Juwan Johnson extended
for
2 days,
two straight shows.
2 shows in a row. Y'all got us to 1,000. I'm not letting you have Juwan Johnson too much
he
talk.
He needs that thumbnail, boy.
He's never getting a thumbnail on the trade show because nobody will click it. They're already leaving the show because it's Juwan Johnson again. But, Mike, okay, so Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, Dalton Schultz, TJ Hawkinson, David Njoku. That's it. That's the list of people in the tight end market last season, as a whole season, that had multiple weeks of tight end 2 on the week, 2 weeks at least of tight end 2 or higher. Travis Kelce, obviously, it was damn near weekly. He was doing that, right?
Because he's a freak.
Right. But those other guys that I mentioned, Kittle, Kelce, Andrews, Schultz, Hawk, and Njoku. That's the list of guys that had multiple weeks with tight end 2 scoring or higher on the entire week. Juwan Johnson's in that list.
It's wild, man.
But so just say whatever you want about Juwan Johnson. Even if you think it's a fluke and it's never going to happen again, the fact that he gave you that multiple times, and it wasn't like, Mike, those were the only times it ever happened. He did have tight end weeks of 8, 4, and 6. So when you're talking a third in a 14-team league, I really don't think that's close, man. Like I want to make sure that I say that way. So
bravo the Who's, bravo Blitz for being open-minded and coming aboard the Juwan Johnson trade.
It's almost like last trade show helped that trade come to fruition. You know, he bought into Juwan Johnson. Holy shit.
Pittman or Jeudy?
Wow, this one's not that close to me, although it's closer. It's closer. It's a lot closer than it was. Come around on Jeudy a lot. Mike, I still don't think I want Jeudy over Pittman, personally. But what say you, buddy?
Man, I've definitely come around so much on Jeudy. I still want Pittman over Jeudy, though. It is a hell of a lot closer than it used to be, man. I probably 2-3 weeks ago, before I really started looking at what Jerry Jeudy was doing, I would have laughed. I mean, like, I got him. Another sucker's board. I probably would have been that sucker who thought it wasn't as close as it should be. I guess with the Pittman thing, him and Jeudy scored very similar. As far as like our best ball sheets, they're within. They're
basically the same. Pittman was slightly lower, but that is because Jeudy had the 2 massive spike weeks at the end of the season. He was wide receiver 1 week 14, and the thing is, Mike, we include week 18, which does not count for the fantasy playoffs. But Mike, he did. When I say he, Jerry Jeudy was also wide receiver 3 in that week. I think that's what actually makes the difference here between the two in the scoring, but they're very comparable on our chart. Both had 2 spike weeks, and the difference, I think, is 1 consistent week, right?
Two consistent.
2 consistent weeks.
Right?
Okay.
8 to 6. So, I think I want Michael Pittman just because maybe I'm gonna talk myself into the. I think he's a better talent, right? I still got that like big bodied receiver that I have love for, and I think their quarterback situation is going to be much better, but. If I'm being honest, though, man, it wasn't like Russ was a good quarterback at all for Jerry Jeudy. He was actually pretty horrible for everybody for that entire offense for most of the year. And yet Jeudy still kind of did things when he was in there where he was actually serviceable. And you know, we did have that stretch where it was the Brett Rippon show there for a while. So Brett Rippon, Sam Ehlinger, you know, you say potato, I say potato. They're both horrible.
Mike,
I think this is honestly close, but if I got to go preference wise, like I'm gonna go the Pittman. I'm gonna go the Pittman route.
Let me ask you this, and this is honestly for me why, given the settings, Mike, 12-team Superflex PPR start 9. So this is lineup start 9. Mm-hmm. Let me say it this way: if you were gonna bet on one of these guys breaking into the top 12, which would you rather? Which do you think has a better chance of becoming a top 12 dynasty receiver or scoring for fantasy points per game, top 12 receiver?
I'll probably be against you here saying it, but I would say better chance Jerry Jeudy.
Okay. Well then I think in this scenario, then you should probably switch it because I'll tell you why. In start 9, 99% of the start 9 leagues, Mike, are 2 receivers, the flex, right, and then the quarterback. So I want to shoot my shot on the guy that actually has the higher ceiling to be one of the guys that matters where I'm starting. Like in that format, Mike, I want to start 3 receivers weekly. I want to start them. You know, I want to start 3 stud receivers. I actually think it's Pittman. Now, okay. I'm agreeing with you that Russell Wilson was not good for Jerry Jeudy. But Mike, here's I think the big thing for me when I look at the 2 seasons, right? Jerry Jeudy did start to show well in the back half, and I think that actually does make the gap of these 2 almost negligible when it comes to dynasty value. But, Mike, when I look at how the season was starting for Michael Pittman, Like, this is a guy that came out of the gates firing. Spike week 1, wide receiver 5. Then he got hurt. He had a few weeks to catch up. Then he had another wide receiver 5 week. Mike, this is with Matt Ryan being dust. And I'm not going to say that Russell Wilson was good, but he wasn't Matt Ryan this year, man. Matt Ryan was bad. Now, I will say this. Like, given what we know, I probably would rather have Russell Wilson than whatever the hell possibly could come Michael Pittman's way in the mystery box. But I do think that Michael Pittman, with just a halfway competent quarterback, I think he has a better chance to ascend into that high-end mix, personally, for me. I think Jerry Jeudy's starting to actually get to the point where, like, all my Jerry Jeudy shares, I'm happily cashing out on it around, like, wide receiver 20 at this point.
Damn. All right. I might want to go out and get some more Jerry Jeudy. The only reason I say is when you look at top 12, Adam, the reason I say I think it's Jerry Jeudy who has a better shot is because of the mystery box of whatever the hell ends up in Indianapolis. I've seen Russell Wilson be a good quarterback and a competent quarterback and elevate, a Tyler Lockett or elevate a DK Metcalf or elevate one of these receivers into elite or pretty close to elite territory. I don't even know who the hell is going to play in Indianapolis at a quarterback. And I want to say that they're going to be competent and do something and bring somebody in who will help Michael Pittman. But this is the same organization who's gone from Phil Rivers to Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan in consecutive years. So I don't know, Adam.
But this is also a guy. This is a wide receiver that has thrived, Mike. Relatively thrived given all those situations. Mike, this is a guy that with Sam Ehlinger had almost wide receiver 1 weeks twice, wide receiver 14 and wide receiver 13 with Ehlinger throwing the football. Mike, let me say this: if they get a Derek Carr, who we have seen 2 years in a row throw insane target volume at Devontae Adams this year and last year was just peppering the hell out of Darren Waller, give me Michael Pittman in that scenario. Aaron Rodgers could go there. I think there's a lot of scenarios. Even if Jimmy G goes there, like, it's not the sexiest, but, like, I think there's a lot of scenarios where Pittman has a better quarterback than what Matt Ryan was this last year, what Carson Wentz was 2 years ago. And
you had me until you said Jimmy G.
Mike, I mean, I'm not saying Jimmy G makes it better. Like, I'd rather have Russell Wilson and Jeudy than I would have Jimmy G and Pittman. I'm just saying it's not the worst. Like, Jimmy G next year for Pittman may not be as bad as fucking Matt Ryan was. I think that's what I'm trying to say is that's how bad Matt Ryan was.
I think you forget how bad Jimmy G was for our guy Brandon Ayuk.
I do, but Brandon Ayuk had other target competition. Brandon Ayuk was also a stud with Nick Mullins.
We don't know that the Colts don't bring some target competition in, right? If they signed a quarterback in free agency.
Sure.
So,
but I also would take Pittman over a lot of the receivers as still the alpha in the offense. I'm with you though. There's scenarios on both sides too.
Well, let's go, man. It was a good deal. I like this one.
I also think though, but let me just say the last point.
This is why you need
dynasty value super fair here. I think it's super fair dynasty value.
You need something on the other side, man. I don't do these one for ones.
I personally still think I have Pittman ahead of Jeudy in the tier, but I get you. All right, this is our boy Dynasty Alex, 12-team Superflex, PPR, start 9. We're in the start 9 lane all of a sudden here. Samaje P. Ryan, Alan Lazard, and Rashid Shaheed. Mike, let me just start off before I even read what's happening in Dynasty Alex. Start 9, I will happily move all that top. I could care less about those guys in start 9. Kenny Gainwell, 303, 211, 304. I'll let you start, Mike, and I'll go second.
None of the players in here in a start 9 mean shit. Maybe Lazard. I mean, Scott kind of opened my eyes with his podcast on Monday about Lazard. Better than we think. Puts up good numbers, but in a start 9, man, like it's about the studs. Could he go somewhere and be productive? Yeah, 100%. Could he have? I'm not going to say like Christian Kirk level, but if he's like 80% Christian Kirk, that'd be a success. And that's a guy that I want on most of my dynasty teams, just not in a start 9. Like he really just doesn't mean anything to me. Kenneth Gainwell, no. Shaheed, no. Samaje Perine. So none of the players are any kind of appealing in a start 9 unless it was a best ball league. The draft picks themselves, the 303, 304, 211. In a start 9, Adam, none of those are appealing either, but I look at what I can do with draft picks and package them together and move within tiers or put stuff together and move up with the possibility of getting some elite difference makers. Now, it's not saying that you can't hit on the 303, the 304, the 211 in this class, because it is very deep, and maybe find one of those outlier studs. We've seen it in other classes, like the Antonio Gibson, who becomes a thing and, is a top 12 running back in his rookie year, and he was a third-round draft pick. So we've seen it before. It's not impossible. I'll just take the liquidity right now for a bunch of guys that I really don't care about and aren't going to be difference makers for me. I mean, these are depth pieces at best.
Well, I mean, Mike, so we're talking about, like, if you look at this, right? So you have a running back on each side and you have wide receivers, two of them going to 713 Oilers. So, Mike, here's the thing. Both of these receivers are undrafted guys. The Allen Lazard was given probably the best case scenario for him as a role this year and didn't really do shit for me. Now, I'm not going to say that Allen Lazard is not going to be, has an opportunity to be something better next year. But, Mike, for me, he's still a roster clogger in start 9. Rashid Shaheed has shown well down the stretch. I know Jay Rich was on, Wake Up saying it's a great receiver he really believes in. I'm not going to go that far, Jay Rich. Now, I'm personally going to still probably put him in the roster clogger territory for long term. Yeah. But it's possible maybe he's not. Point is, for me, the way I look at this, 2 undrafted receivers, Mike, that are roster cloggers in start 9, in my opinion. Mike, I'm going lateral, I think. Samaje Perine for Kenny Gainwell. Both those guys, they take the backfield, starting them, right? Outside of that, I'm probably not starting them in start 9. I'm not even thinking about it in start 9, right? If Miles Sanders missed a week this week, Mike, and Kenny Gainwell was going to get 12, 15 touches, I'm firing him up, And I think the same with Samaje Perine. If when Mixon was out, like, Samaje Perine's a guy we want to fire up and start sit. Now, the point with that is they're lateral movers, I think, in dynasty value. 303, 304, 211, Mike. In this class, I'm on record. I've been on record. I want all the seconds. Mike, 303 and 304 are right there in the range of back-end seconds. You look at mock drafts today, Mike, you can get, in my opinion, you can land running backs at all of these positions, 211, 303, 304, which give me 3 shots at a running back that, if it breaks right, I can start. And that's exactly why I love what Dynasty Alex did. I think from a roster construction standpoint, and with these picks, you already mentioned liquidity. You could move them later if you wanted to, package up or do something else. But even if you had to stand pat and take the picks, you could end up with 4 running backs that aren't weekly considerations today, but with an injury or two, you can fire up every single time and start 9. That is smashing compared to what you would have had with Allen Lazard, Rashid Shaheed, and Samaje Perine. Dynasty Alex, I promise, man, it's not because, anything other than that's just a great trade. I love it, but that is a great trade, man. Phenomenal.
Get some junk off your bench. There it is,
dude. Because that's the thing. You're not Allen Lazard and Rashid Shaheed. The reality of them becoming someone that's like, holy shit, I have to start them and start 9 is just not very high.
I like it, man. How about this? This must be a startup trade.
Kilmo, yeah, startup trade. 12-team, start 11, Superflex. The 109 was Fields, Mike. So we don't actually have the players yet for the other picks. So let's talk about this, knowing the new landscape of quarterbacks. 109 is going away. So that's Justin Fields. You're trading away Justin Fields. You're going to get the 207 in a startup, the 507 in a startup, the 1307 in a startup, and you're also going to get a 24 and a 25 first. So the other thing is you're basically betting against this team in the long haul.
Damn.
I'll let you start, Mike. I see the brain churning, so I know something's got to be going on over there.
All right. Let me say this. If by some miracle, and I guess we've kind of seen it, like, depending on your feelings on Kyler or Tua, and now I guess we get to throw Dak on there, like these back-end QB1s, just because of Dak's poor playoff performance and, throwing a bunch of picks down the stretch. Maybe people are soured on him. There's an outside possibility, Adam. You're still getting a top 12 quarterback at the 207 in a startup. Now, I don't know if that's the case in this one or if that actually happened.
Let's assume it didn't happen, though, because I think the reality is most times it won't.
If it didn't happen, like, I'm a little bit more hesitant because it's just like, I want these elite quarterbacks, right? I want to stay in this elite territory in every startup I do. he did get a haul though, right? He got the 2, the 5, 2 future first, and I know they're a couple years out, so we don't value them properly like we should. I like what you said though. You're making a bet against this team of being good and not doing it properly, which I also like to make that bet against some people sometimes. The 13th is just kind of a whatever pick. In terms of like draft capital, that's like getting a second round rookie pick, right? Like just probably a mid, which is fine.
The 25 first, yeah.
No, the 1307.
Oh, the 1307, yeah.
Or kind of the equivalent in value. You hit this out of the park. It is a grand slam, home run, 360 slam dunk, whatever the hell you want to say. If you somehow finagle the top 12 quarterback at 207, if they were dumb enough to let one fall to you, I would take this a billion times out of a billion times. I don't care if it's Dak, Tua, or Kyler Murray. Any one of those, Adam, and you give me 2 future first, forget the 507 and 1307. That's incredible. I would do that.
Mike,
to your
let me give you a couple scenarios.
But if it didn't happen,
let me give you a couple scenarios because 207. So the startup we're actually still finishing right now, the South Harmon Dynasty Degenerates, right? Mike, I actually had the 207, and I got Tua.
Oh my God! See,
if you got Tua at 207, you're basically saying right now you would run to the bank with this, right?
Yes. No.
Okay. Now let's just say that one pick earlier. So Tua was gone at 206. Kyler, Lance, Deshaun Watson, all the aforementioned, obviously, stud quarterbacks. Let me ask you this. Let's say at 207, then you decided to take either C.J. Stroud or the 102, depending on if you have rookies in yours or not. What about then? Like, let's say that's C.J. Stroud or the first quarterback off the board there, and then you get the 507, the 1307, and 2 first. Are you still in?
Yeah, I'm in there.
So, because I think here the reason I wanted to say that is because Kilmo, if you haven't made the picks, or even if it's not Kilmo, if you're watching this and not sure how to play this, I wanted to give actionable advice on 207, the way you make this for sure good value bet. Because, like, C.J. Stroud may not fire. The top quarterback in this class may not fire, Mike. But you know what will happen is the value of that quarterback will be good enough that you can still make this work. And the fact that you're getting 507, 1307, and 2 firsts, and you're betting against someone that has consolidated like crazy for Justin Fields, I think I would do this. It doesn't come without its risks, though. Like if
and for anybody saying like, well, what happens if they bust, right? Or what happens if they don't add him? We haven't seen shit all from Trey Lance's entire career, right? And he's still going in the second round of some of these startups that we're doing, right? Still on potential. So what do you think happens with CJ Stroud, man? Like, he's not going down. You'll be fine. I do like it. Now that you say that, you do have options. You could get a Tua, or you could get a Stroud, Bryce Young,
or whatever your pick of quarterback is, right? Yeah. I'm with you. All right, so Castle Black, our boy, is getting Hollywood Brown and the Slim Reaper, Mike. Trading away Amon-Ra St. Brown and the 202 and the 412. Mike, let me this is Superflex lineup start 12. He is a champ and he's competitive. Now, let me say this. I know that Castle Black is a big time Slim Reaper fan. He got the canvas giveaway, the Slim Reaper one. He's got the jersey from us, right? Castle Black, I got to be honest though, man. I love the Slim Reaper too, but this is not a trade I would do because here's the way I look at this, Mike. Even if you were bold enough to tell me that Devontae Smith and Amon-Ra St. Brown cancel out, let's say you did that. I don't personally believe that's the case, but let's say you were that bullish on Devontae Smith. I want the 202 over Hollywood.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even get to the 412.
Yeah.
So the point here is that I think you're making a bet to go get your guy, which is fine. Like sometimes, listen, when you make trades in Dynasty, especially if you have multiple teams, there's going to be times where you overpay to go get your guy. But I'm just telling you, Castle Black, and everyone listening, like this is going to get your guy, and this is an overpay. So what happens with the values of these players and all that is we don't know. But I'm just telling you right now, like personally, because I'd also take Amon-Ra over Devontae Smith. But I was being generous of if you even leveled those even.
If you did make them even. I know Hollywood's fine, but I don't think he's worth a first-round pick. So, I mean, if this is like the right range here for Hollywood, you just give me a free 412. Now, I know it ain't the greatest thing and probably nothing, to be honest, but I'm with you, man. Even if I'm like super generous and try to wrap my head around it, you still got a free 412. You still
Which
got
is
a free.
Which, if you want to throw that away, fine. But like, I'm just not in the business of throwing something away. You know,
It's something. It's something. But I'm with you too. Like, if I'm being honest about it, like I'm an Eagles fan. I love Smitty, but there's no scenario I take Smitty before I take Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra over Smitty.
Let me ask you this: what's the difference between the two?
I'd say the 202. That's the difference, right? If this trade was Hollywood,
if you're telling me that's the case, holy fuck!
If this trade was Hollywood and Amon-Ra for Smitty in the 202, what would you think about that?
So it's Slim Reaper, Hollywood Brown, and 202 for Amon-Ra and 412.
No.
I'm sorry,
Hollywood and Amon-Ra.
Okay.
For Smitty.
Oh, got it. We're swapping Amon-Ra and Smitty. I think I would like Castle Black's side then.
Okay. That's what I say. Like, you feel like maybe you're paying market value or a little too much for Hollywood, but you're getting the better player in Amon-Ra over Smitty.
And I guess I'll say this: I have notoriously not been a Hollywood guy, right? Just like I was notoriously not a Jerry Jeudy guy. I'd admit it to you. Mm-hmm. Not scared to admit it to you. So let us know in the comments too. Like, Hollywood Brown, how high are you on Hollywood Brown? Where is the consensus on this player? Because I've seen differing things on Hollywood Brown too, Mike. I guess that's the other thing. Like, where do people believe Hollywood? Like, I've seen some people that are very bullish on Hollywood Brown and probably still would easily send to first and are probably saying, no, I want Hollywood Brown over the 202. So I guess that would be the scenario where maybe Castle Black's side becomes more even. Just for me, it's not that way, you know?
For me too. But he definitely went and got his guy. He stays on brand with what he likes to do.
Hey, man, you got the Slim Reaper. You know, you got the jersey, you got the canvas, you got another share. And listen, I'm not telling you I don't hope it pays off for you. This is not a process move I would typically make outside of a scenario where I'm saying, you know what, fuck it, I want to go get my guy, you know, Mike style with Juwan Johnson. I believe. All right, so we got to set, Mike. It's not a trade show without 7 GOAT ranks. So,
oh my gosh,
Mike, this was okay. Mike, I'm in the comments of our shithead trades. We just did a couple days ago a trade of these two. And then, like, the comments are, like, going off. Like, oh, my goodness, what is going on? And I'm like, this is crazy. He thought this one felt better, more reasonable. But let me just say this, man. I love Cam Akers, but this isn't close. But I'll let you go ahead, Mike.
All right. Well, let's start with Lance and Pickett. Okay. Would you say with the Brock Purdy thing and, like, the Trey Lance panic, we could at least say these guys are relatively close? Like, I don't think they are. I probably still want Trey Lance. I want to shoot my shot on him. Even though I'm a Kenny Pickett guy, I still probably want Trey Lance over him. But maybe market value, could you say they're close?
Well, here's what I would say. Market value is probably getting closer. I still think it leans Lance for sure. The one thing I would say with that is this, where Saquon might actually have a leg up, is I still think the ceiling is not close. It's Trey Lance by a mile. But, like, let's say somehow Trey Lance ends up not getting traded and is a backup all next year. Like, I think there's actually somehow now a safer floor with Kenny Pickett.
Okay. For me, though, I'll just go ahead and I'll
cancel him out. Fair enough.
Cancel him out. A.J. Brown for Cam Akers, Jeudy, Bateman, and the 208. Is it crazy to say I still rather just have A.J. Brown? Right?
Well, Mike, here's the thing.
I just talk glowingly about Jerry Jeudy, but I look at it and I go, I have serious concerns about Bateman. Jerry Jeudy, I've come around on him, but he's just kind of whatever. And Cam Akers is a running back, which I know he's your guy. But if I look at it, package them all together, I'm going, I ain't gonna lie, man. A.J. Brown is a top 5 dynasty wide receiver any way you slice it.
Sure, but here's, I think this is actually where format's very important to me. 12-team, 14-team, like 12-team best ball, 14-team best ball. I would probably consider that just because of the plethora. But, Mike, and this is 10-team Superflex full PPR lineup league. 10-team? 10-team. Mike, that's not even – no, I don't want all that shit in 10-team for A.J. Brown. No. And I love Cam Akers. This is the most bullish Cam Akers guy. I didn't leave Cam Akers the whole season.
So
Now we're talking Dameon Pierce in the 302 versus nothing.
For free. For free. Free 99.
7 goat rings, and now you see, and you want to know why people are wondering, like, who are these people? How does he get this done? This is crazy.
Man, if we're in a 12-team best ball league, right, you look at it and you go A.J. Brown or Jeudy, Bateman, and Cam Akers in the 208, I definitely would say I'd probably take the package of players.
I would too.
Right? Like, let me just diversify, or maybe in a deeper starting lineup, because it's not like Jeudy, Bateman, Akers are bad players. The 208's not a bad pick.
Nope.
If you're going to I get 4 good assets for A.J. Brown. I love A.J. Brown. He's elite, but in a deeper starting lineup, let me try to get some depth, right?
And A.J. Brown is obviously at this point being valued at wide receiver 3-4. He's at the peak. There's nowhere for him to go up.
You go a 12-team start 9, I'm going like, man, I almost want A.J. Brown over the rest of the stuff.
Agreed.
You go a 10-team start 10, which you knock 2 whole teams off of this, and you move up 1 starting roster spot. Give me A.J. Brown over all that crap, and then thanks for the free Dameon Pierce at the 302.
Mike, I'll tell you this much, because 10-team also takes the quarterback values down. Mike, I'm not even going to lie to you. 10-team, I might even, probably wouldn't, but might even consider just taking A.J. Brown over the entire other side.
That's
because Mike, here's the thing. In 10-team, the quarterback values come down. So I can replace Kenny Pickett super easily in 10-team.
I'll find the next Brock Purdy.
Holy shit. That is a 7 goat rings trade. We're getting off of this, man. This is crazy. All right, so we got Roxbox. Apparently, he's got Dylan Friedman sending him an iMessage. Dylan wanted to make the trade show, too. We got Terry McLaurin. Dylan Friedman's like, yeah, let me get on the trade show, too, real quick.
Got this.
Justin Herbert, Terry McLaurin, and a 24th third being acquired by our boy Roxbox 18 for Trey Lance, Garrett Wilson, the 111, and the 205. Ooh. Some big names and a spicy deal here, Mike. So I'm going to let you start it off and tell us what you think. D Freezy or Roxbox 18?
I'm taking Roxbox. I think we talked through this trade in the Discord, but he has an opportunity to get a top 5 Superflex quarterback. You go and do it. I know Adam.
And let me say, too, I forgot, Mike. I don't mean to cut you off, but I forgot to put the settings in. 12-team Superflex, half PPR, and it's lineup start 10, which is a big deal here.
I mean, even if it start like 15, it's Justin Herbert, man. You're going to want that quarterback. The way I look at it, Lance is bleeding value. Can he be good? Yes. Is he locked and loaded QB 13? Maybe, maybe not. I don't.
He's not locked and loaded anymore. No.
It doesn't matter. He's not a QB1. He's not QB 12 or better, Adam. And you're getting a top 5 guy, which are ridiculously hard to get. I know Herbert didn't have the greatest year, but there's some things that look up for him. Garrett Wilson, that's your guy. Even if I substitute this with Chris Olave and my love, I'm still making this deal. You add on the 111. I like the class, man. I like the pick at the 111. But I'm going from Trey Lance to Justin Herbert. I will go ahead and give you the 111. And if we're going to do like the second, third swap, and you're going to send me back a Terry McLaurin, whatever you think he's worth. I think he's probably still worth a first. Maybe he's worth an early second. Doesn't really matter. I get a receiver back, which will score similar, if not more, than Garrett Wilson, and kind of just offset that whole thing for me. Like, that's where I'm in. I get to elite quarterback territory. I get a receiver that I can still start with confidence. And then we do a pick swap in the second, third round. And it's by a year. I know you love all the second round picks, Adam, but where are you at with this one? Because it's Justin Herbert, because it's start 10. How do you feel?
My thing too is like, when I say that, this is a guy that is heavily best ball, right? So like, of course I want all the seconds. Even in lineup leagues, like, I'm not telling you I don't want the seconds, but like the way I look at this is, okay, Justin Herbert in start 10 lineup, like, I know he's lost some value this year. And I know probably people aren't willing to say he's no longer a BAM tier player. But for me, Mike, he's still in that conversation. BAM tier. Yeah. Start 10 lineup league, Mike, I want elite quarterbacks. And if I can find a way to get 2 of them, I still now only have 8 guys that can catch up to the elite ones that give me a huge edge at a spot where they're scoring the most points. When I look at this too, right? So the dynasty value, and there's no question I want Garrett Wilson over Terry McLaurin. But like when I think about not having a quarterback, think about how much inflation has come Garrett Wilson's way because of the great season he has and because he's clearly ahead of Chris Olave and the wide receiver one in this class. There's a lot of name cachet that I don't know production-wise is going to actually give me top 8 dynasty value in my lineup like his value says. Terry McLaurin probably doesn't score as many points as Garrett Wilson, but it may not be that big of a gap. So in start 10, Mike, like that's a pivot I'm willing to make already for Terry McLaurin if I'm getting this much of a difference maker at quarterback. I think the big conversation becomes 111 and 205. I think at 111 and 205, Mike, you have a chance to shoot your shot on a combination of wide receiver and running back that make it very interesting. But, Mike, I am so willing to find out. I'm willing to fuck around and find out with Justin Herbert here because I think I'm a good enough manager that I can find a way to get, the deep dive, Dante Foreman's and cycle running backs in and just find a way to have McLaurin be my wide receiver 2, somebody else be my wide receiver 1, and package this thing up to where Herbert and my other quarterback just make my team so hard to beat weekly.
Right, gives you that high floor, and they'd even higher when the quarterbacks go off and they have those. I mean, it's not like we've never seen Herbert go for 50 or 60 in some of our leagues before. Like he's done that quite often.
And that's the thing. I think real quick before we get over to the next trade here, Mike. Last point I would make is if this is 12-team best ball start 13, I might be more willing to see on that other side. But given the format, it's not that close to me, honestly.
I like it, man.
All right, buddy. This is it. The last trade of the trade show. Of course, it's going to be our buddy Zach. I'm not good, which is, him almost talking shit at us. He's getting Tyler Allgeier, Mike, and the 412 for Chig and the 306. Mike, give you the settings. Start 10. Okay, so 2 tight end, best ball, but there's no tight end premium. So it's not a league we created. But it is a best ball league. It's starting 10, and it's 2 tight ends. Chig there becomes very interesting, even though there's not a tight end premium. But, Mike, what do you say here?
Man, these are between 2 of our guys, right? Zach and Koopa.
Our boy Koopa, man. And I know, Zach, let me just tell you, Koopa looked at a few sheets of warp before this trade went through.
I will say this, and no tight end premium, but start 2 tight end leagues. I treat tight ends just like a half point.
It's like you would treat it like a half point tight end premium, right? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I still value them more. Like they have some more value to me than they would if it was a no tight end premium start 1 league, where I just really don't give a shit about them outside of Travis Kelce. But I mean, it ain't doing a whole lot. Best ball league, just throw a bunch of crap at the wall. I do like Chig, man. I really do like Chig, and I kind of want to acquire him everywhere. I like what I've seen, but I'm not going to put that value on him. The way Tyler Allgeier ended the season, do I think he's locked and loaded as their running back next year? No. It is. I mean, there's an outside shot. Arthur Smith brings in Derrick Henry, and then Tyler Allgeier just kind of becomes a whatever, right? Derrick Henry's going to get all the work, and it's the Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in Atlanta show with Arthur Smith. Like everybody's having a great time running power option. But is there also a chance where that doesn't happen, Adam? And they're just like, we like what we saw from Tyler Allgeier. You're our guy. We're going to kind of work in Cordell Patterson. We're going to bring him back. And we're going to bring along a rookie quarterback that we drafted. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, whatever the case is. And this is our offense, right? We're looking at Tyler Allgeier, where you're an expendable asset, but you perform very well for us, but you're still going to be an integral part as this offense grows for the next couple of years with Pitts and a young quarterback in Drake London. Yes, I think that's a logical thing. So if I'm looking at it, I mean, there's not a heavy tight end premium. There's no tight end premium, but if I'm just treating it like a normal half point because it's start 2 tight end league and a best ball, I think I'll take Tyler Allgeier in the 412, even though the 308 does have some appeal. Chig has some appeal. I think I want Zach's side. I think I want the running back on this one.
Man, you know what? It's crazy, man. As you're talking about this trade, I've gone back and forth in my mind multiple times and pulling stuff up behind the scenes. I'm going to say that this is two Savage tier members because, like, this is close. This is very close for me. And I've been thinking about it a lot. Okay, so the two tight end makes the scarcity higher for the tight end position, but they don't score as much, right? So, like, let me say this. I think Chig, even in that format, two tight end, I do want him. And Tyler Allgeier is someone, Ray got me so into Tyler Allgeier, Mike. Like, I took him in the OG bomb squad way before the draft, and I kind of regretted where I took him. Yes. But at the same time, he kind of, started building value. And here's what I'll say, right? When you look at the back half of his season, man, you should be really encouraged by the whole season too, because Cordell Patterson's this older, aging running back that's a veteran that knows the system, and early you kind of saw that being the case. But, Mike, starting at week 5, Tyler Allgeier earned a 60% snap share.
Damn.
And if you go all the way through, outside of the games where they were getting fucking their doors beaten off, he's in that 59, 57, 62, 60, 55, 52, 59, 69 the final game of the season snap share, Mike. What that is to me is a guy that is a all-purpose 2-down running back. Not going to get third down work, but is going to take all the early down work. And the way he was running and the way he is in an offense that has Arthur Smith, and you saw how much he killed Kyle Pitts, how much he wants to run the football, Desmond Ridder could be the starter again next year.
Could be, yep.
So, like, that part of Tyler Allgeier is very intriguing to me. But then I got to ask myself, Mike, okay, Tyler Allgeier, day 3 draft capital, what's the likelihood of him staying in that scenario, even if it's next year he stays there, like long term, versus Chig, what he started with? And then the picks become very big for me here, and this is where I've been thinking about this back and forth. Well, I'm going to lean Koopa's side, and I will say it's still incredibly close. I think, Mike, when I look at the ADP data on what I can get at 306, I think, personally, that I could have a chance at replacing Tyler Allgeier at 306. I might be able to get Roschon Johnson, Dwayne McBride, some of these guys, right? Mike, I don't know in 2 tight end, because of how quickly the tight ends will go, if at 412 I have a chance to replace Chig. And I think that's where I'm actually going to lean the other side, because you take your shot at tight end there, or running back there at 306. Like, it may not be what Tyler Allgeier was this year, but I think I have a name that I could trade like Tyler Allgeier was last year. I don't know after what Chig's done in 2 tight end if I can actually acquire something like that at 412.
That's fair. One of the things that kind of throws me off too, like if you were just to say, a rookie running back ran for 1,000 yards,
1,035 yards. He had a great season. Yeah,
in his rookie year, right, on a team that is devoid of talent and weapons, and it's an ambiguous backfield. There's no obvious person coming back from injury who's going to unseat him. You don't know if he's going to still be the guy. You'd be all over yourself. But because he's a 5th-round pick and we've kind of been up and down and left and right on him, we look at it a little bit different. Like, if you look at Tyler Allgeier, what he did, at least from a number standpoint, and what Elijah Mitchell did last year, it's very similar players, right?
Mike,
almost
it's so
the same
funny.
Rushing yards, the same attempts, the same amount of touchdowns and receptions. It's like the same guy, but I just remember, going into this year in startups, right? Elijah Mitchell's going in the 7th round, the 6th round, the 5th round of startup drafts. People are all over him, and it just feels like nobody gives a shit about Tyler Allgeier, which is kind of wild.
Well, now the difference here, I think, is right. To your point, Elijah Mitchell had a much different cost going into this year than Allgeier does. But, Mike, what you described to me at the early part, and you talked about Elijah Mitchell, I go back 2 years. You know what you described to me? James Robinson.
Yeah.
You know what happened to James Robinson?
1st rounder.
You know what happened to him now? He ain't worth a damn thing. He's been to another team. Mike, that is a learning thing for me, where as much as I like Tyler Allgeier, the running back position, what he did, I think it's replaceable. I do. This is also not easy for me to say because I love Allgeier and I love what he did this year. But I think there's a ton of running back talent coming in this season, in this 23 class. I think I'm willing to take the other side.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm not saying it's 100% right. I'm not saying there's not a scenario where Allgeier doesn't earn the starting job and that Zach wins the trade. I think it's really close value-wise. I just think if I look at this and have to pick a side, I lean ever so slightly Koopas because of the situation I mentioned.
I just think it's rarely ever the case where these tight ends, even in 2 tight end leagues, like hit so big on these deep sleepers or these dart throws or these young guys that we like that are ascending, where they ever do enough to actually matter or give a shit. Where at the running back position, it's just easier to do. If Tyler Allgeier comes out and runs for 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards as the guy and double-digit touchdowns next year, you're like, he made a difference in your lineup week in and week out. Lineup league, best ball doesn't matter. I mean, what's a tight end who scores you like 7 points per game in your tight end's 2 slot ever really worth?
You know what I'm going to say? I'm calling bullshit. And you know what? Before I call bullshit, let me give everybody that's watching this a big thank you, big shout out, everybody that subscribed. We appreciate it. You guys have pushed us past 1,000, which I think has given me confidence to push back on Mike and all the bullshit he's doing. Okay. Because you know what? He's out here giving Juwan Johnson all the praise. He loves Chig. What if Chig, Mike, in his year 2, has a nice little value ascension? That's the only pushback I'd give you is that, like, I'm with you. If Chig just stays in this range of what he's scoring in his rookie season, Tyler Allgeier has obviously has a much more meaningful impact on teams if he's rushing for 1,000 yards and is the 2-down grinder for Atlanta. But if that becomes something that's more convoluted and he's not actually the 2-down grinder, they replace him with somebody else, I don't know where you find a Chig at the 412 because I've shot my shot, Mike. I've shot my shot on Hunter Longs. I've shot my shot on Adam Troutman's, and I've been disappointed. Like in 2 tight end, there's only so many tight ends to go around.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I just look at all these tight ends, though, like even Chig. Like I want to buy into him. I want to buy him everywhere, and I want to shoot my shot on him, but at the cost of a realistic running back like Tyler Allgeier, who has a realistic opportunity to be the lead guy and to matter in fantasy, I think I'm going to put my chips down there. And not on the tight end because I've been let down by so many of these guys who just don't become anything, right? When we thought Harrison Bryant was going to be a thing or Noah Gray.
Jonnu Smith in Tennessee prior.
Yeah, Tommy Tremble, right? We're still holding on hope. And I look at the best ball sheet. What did he do last year for you? Fucking nothing.
Let me give you the best ball sheet. I mean, we're already done with the trade show. We're just going to argue. But let me give you the week 13 to week 18, Mike. I mean, tight end 8, tight end 3, tight end 7 in those final 6 weeks. 2 tight end, I want that guy, especially if he's young and especially if he's got trade value, which I think Chig might have. Once again, though, I'm not like telling you it's a smash. I think I'll lean that side. I think it's a very good close deal. But honestly, Mike, I thought it was a very good trade show. I thought we had some different opinions, which was nice.
Had some wild ass deals, man. Some big ass deals.
We had
down in some big leagues.
I'll tell you what we don't have. We don't have Juwan Johnson making the thumbnail. We don't have Brock Purdy making the thumbnail.
I swear, I would lose my mind.
We definitely don't have Zach Wilson making the thumbnail. But I'll tell you what we have is we had that big trade earlier, and Patrick Mahomes will be on the thumbnail for everybody. But I hope you guys enjoyed another week of Dynasty trades. That was a decent amount of them. Mike, we did the trade show on Friday, right? So all these trades were between
people have been busy.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday because we're doing this on Tuesday. It won't drop to you till Saturday. We got a couple kinks to work out, so we had to do the trade show early this week. But Mike, man, there were some really good deals in there in a few amount of days. So I'm really excited to do the trade show the rest of the year because I think if this is the pace of trades, we're going to have some crazy deals to talk about all year.
It's going to be a wild one, man. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, tapping into another trade show, hitting the like, hitting the subscribe, hitting that subscribe button got us over 1,000, which was incredible. So absolutely amazing. We're recording this on Tuesday night. Like Adam said, just a matter of days, all these deals went down. And I think you're 100% right, buddy. If this is the pace we're going to keep up throughout the entire offseason, oh, man, I better get my talking shoes on. So we're going to have a lot to break down, and we haven't even hit the prime season, right? You know, all them trades that go down right around the time of the rookie draft when people are jockeying for position and trying to position themselves within tiers. Holy shit, this is just January.
Yeah, April and May are going to really pick up the value of those picks and the amount of deals that are getting crazier and crazier for what people think about the picks. I'm excited for it, man. Once again, we appreciate every one of you guys tapping into the trade show. And I hope you enjoyed all the deals, including Mike's hate for Brock Purdy and his love for Zach Wilson. But we will see you back here, same time, same place next week. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. We are out of this thing. Peace.